What if I told you that hidden in the Black Hills of South Dakota, there's a church that looks like it was magically transported straight from medieval Norway? I'm not talking about some modern copy. This is an exact replica of an 800-year-old Viking Christian church, complete with dragon heads and ancient woodworking secrets. But here's the crazy part. It was built in 1969 by a radio preacher who had a wild dream. Today we are inside the Chapel of the Hills to uncover why this stunning piece of Norwegian history ended up in the American Midwest and dive into the interesting history of how the Viking culture became Christian. So picture this. You are driving through the pine forests near Rapid City, South Dakota, and suddenly you see what looks like a dragon-topped church from a fantasy movie. That is exactly what happens to thousands of visitors who stumble upon the chapel in the hills. This isn't just any church. It is a perfect copy of a stave church in Norway, which was built around 1180. That is almost 850 years ago. According to American historians, this type of church is pronounced either stav or stave. Both are considered correct. Look at these incredible details. Those aren't just decorations. Every single carving has a meaning. The dragon heads on the roof, they aren't scary monsters. In medieval times, people believed they would scare away evil spirits and protect everyone inside. Pretty smart thinking for 12th century, right? So here's where the story gets really cool. Back in the 1960s, there was a Lutheran minister named Conrad Thompson. He had a radio show called Lutheran Vespers that was broadcast all across America. During that time, he was doing it from a regular old studio, and he wanted to do something more special, something that would really connect people with their faith and heritage. Thompson looked around the Black Hills of South Dakota and had this amazing idea. The area was full of Norwegian and Scandinavian immigrants who had settled there in the late 1800s. Their families had left behind their homeland, including their beautiful stave churches they grew up with. So Thompson thought, what if I bring a piece of Norway to them? In 1968, construction started on this incredible project. They just didn't wing it either. Thompson and his team studied every single detail of the original stave church in Norway. They used traditional building methods, the same type of wood, and even brought in craftsmen who understood their ancient techniques. Now let's talk about why these churches are so special. Stave churches are a completely unique type of building that you can only find in Norway. The word stave comes from the wooden posts called staves. These wooden posts hold up the entire structure. Think of them like the skeleton of the building. And get this, these churches were built by the same people who made Viking longships. When the Vikings converted to Christianity around 1000 AD, they took all their incredible woodworking skills and used them to build churches instead of warships. This was also during the amazing stone cathedral period in Europe. But instead of stone, they used wood to build these cathedrals. The original builders were basically ancient engineers. They figured out how to make these wooden buildings last for centuries without using a single nail in the main structure. Everything fits together like a giant wooden puzzle. The secret is how they cut and shape each piece of wood so it locks into place with the others. Historians think there were once between 1,300 to 2,000 stave churches, or in Norwegian, stave churches, across Norway. But over the centuries, most of them were torn down or fell apart. Today, only 28 of the original churches are still standing. That makes the church in South Dakota that much more precious because it's a copy of a rare church in Norway. The original church itself almost didn't survive. In 1877, it was originally going to be demolished. Luckily, the Society of the Preservation of Ancient Norwegian Monuments stepped in and saved it. If they didn't, we wouldn't have this amazing piece of history to copy. So why did all these Norwegian families end up in South Dakota in the first place? In the late 1800s, life in Norway was really tough. There wasn't enough farmland and many families were struggling to make a living. When the word spread about the American frontier and all the cheap land available in places like South Dakota, thousands of Norwegian families packed up everything and made the dangerous journey across the Atlantic Ocean. When they got to the Black Hills, something amazing happened. It reminded them of home, the rolling hills, the pine forests, even the way the light hit the landscape was similar to the fjords and mountains they had left behind in Norway. Many of these families settled in the area and brought their traditions, their food, their language, and most importantly, their Lutheran faith. The chapel in the hills represents the Lutheran faith, which is a branch of Christianity that started in Germany in the 1500s with a guy named Martin Luther. Lutheranism became really popular in Scandinavian countries like Norway, and when those families came to America, they brought their faith with them. What's beautiful about this chapel is that it's not just a museum. It's still an active place of worship. People come here for weddings, baptisms, and regular church services. The Lutheran Vespers radio show that inspired the whole project broadcast from here until 1975, reaching millions of listeners across the country. When you visit the chapel in the hills, you are stepping into living history. The smell of aged wood, the way the light filters through the small windows, the feeling of being surrounded by all that ancient craftsmanship. It's pretty incredible. And here's something cool. They didn't just build the church. There's a traditional Norwegian grass roof gift shop where you can learn more about Scandinavian culture and history. The whole property feels like a little piece of Norway that somehow found its way to the American West. So there you have it. The chapel in the hills is way more than just a cool-looking building. It's a bridge between two worlds, connecting Norwegian immigrants and their descendants to their ancient heritage. It's a testament to the incredible skills of medieval craftspeople, and it's proof that sometimes the most amazing historical treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. Thank you so much for visiting us today, and make sure that you check out all our incredible world's greatest sacred places.